Today, I'm working on a project high up in the Mesoteca Mountains in central Mexico. This place is a long ways from anything. And the only way up here is a winding dirt road that is at least an hour away from the nearest neighboring town, assuming you have a 4x4, which most people don't. To live in a location like this, practically everything has to be brought in from the outside, from basic home goods all the way up to building materials like concrete. In some ways, this community is like an island, completely isolated from the outside world. Except they do have access to electricity. I mean, not a ton of electricity, but they're connected to a grid of some sort. The internet here is actually quite good considering the location. I've been to 3 different villages today, and every single community had a good Wi-Fi signal, complete with a captive portal, not even unsecured networks. I'm also finding that it's really hard to find any place on Earth that doesn't have access to Coca-Cola. While it's pretty straightforward to bring in electricity from hundreds of miles away or to beam in internet really anywhere on the globe, there is one precious resource that is practically impossible to do at large rural scale. Fresh water. Every home on this hillside has some sort of shallow well system that brings whatever meager water they can find through little itty-bitty pipes into a cistern next to the house. With the exception of the fiberglass cisterns, this method of collecting and storing water is basically unchanged for hundreds of years. Because water is heavy and there's a finite distance where it's practical to pump uphill for such a small population of people. And there's a lot of great engineering going into bringing clean water supplies to developing nations all over the world. But the point I want to make here is that this type of water scarcity in rural areas used to be the reality for most of civilization until relatively recently. Large populations of people being able to measure their access to clean drinking water in gallons per minute rather than gallons per day is a fairly recent development. Major water projects on places like the Nile, the Indus River, the Mississippi, the Colorado is really all that's separating us from living in the 19th century instead of the 21st.